Now moving back to some more breaking news, this time domestically. British Steel has scrapped plans for up to 2,700 redundancies after the UK government took control of the company earlier this month. The firm says it's now able to keep both of its blast furnaces running continuously. And interim chief Lisa Coulson thanked staff and the unions for their extraordinary dedication through what she called a difficult and worrying time, and she confirmed the consultation is closing without action. Now, this dramatic news follows new legislation passed on Saturday to help stabilise operations. And we're joined in the studio in Westminster by our political editor, the best in the business, Chris Hope. Chris, a pleasure to have your company. This is a significant victory for working class Britain. I mean, this is what the government promised, 2,700 jobs snatched from the jaws of defeat. It's a result primarily for the people of Southport.
It's a result in spending money in Scunthorpe, but we're on the hook now for lots of losses. This plant is losing £700,000 a day. That is racking up. Essentially, it is proving the status quo that the state now owns that Scunthorpe plant. We are writing the cheques for the pay packets. We are, Jonathan Reynolds is in charge of the HR. These are two furnaces. They date from the 1930s, 1950s. They're called Queen Anne and Queen Bess. They need refurbishing to last another 20 years. You know, reforms, Richard Tyson says you can do that. We'll wait and see. For me, it's just recognising the reality that this plant now has been all but nationalised. The government says it wants to bring in private sector investment, maybe alongside the state, but really we're on the hook for this plant now. And yeah, that's good news for the people who work there and the wider people living near Scunthorpe, but we haven't got a lot of money to spend in this country, and there are other priorities too.
And politically, it's fascinating because, as you say, there's a convergence of people like Nigel Farage, Richard Tice from Reform, Jeremy Corbyn. Wanted to do things like this if he were ever to have been made Prime Minister, and now Sir Keir Starmer, suddenly the race to be the champion of industrialisation in Britain, and for the Labour Party especially, an astonishing position. A few weeks ago, they were dead against blast furnaces and their net zero carbon footprint.
It's re-industrialisation, and whether Donald Trump would approve the state being on the hook for supporting this plant, which according to the Chinese owners couldn't make money and was near to closing. It's great that we have it. We need the steel for our railway lines, to make the defence spending we need to do over the next few years as we drive that up. But they want to make this business make money, and that might take some time.
Is its job to make money, or is its job to be a key strategic sovereign industry to help? Those millions of homes won't build themselves without British Steel. Even theme parks in Bedfordshire won't build themselves without British Steel. Is it more than just pounds and pence? Is it something else? Is it a sovereign, standalone industry?
That is the justification that the Prime Minister used. He called it a sovereign requirement to have this operating. I remember the day it happened on that Friday. Maurice Glassman came into GB News studios on the Sabbath, and as a Jew, he'd be marking that. But he wanted to come in and talk about. He said, finally, what a government here doing what Labour government should do, which is take over these industrial premises, these sites, and run them for the state. But there's going to be a bill for that, and others, maybe like John Redwood, may be concerned about that.
And that you're exactly right to mention Mr Redwood. He's going to join us next, and particularly after Port Talbot, of course, closed down before many people thought maybe this intervention should have occurred then, but the timing wasn't right.
But the fight in politics is exactly here. It's where Reform UK meets Labour. Reform UK have been saying for 3 or 4 years to nationalise this plant. Labour's come in and done it. Reform UK was saying cut the aid budget, spend that money on defence. Labour are doing it. Where those two parties intersect is the battle, I think, in politics right now.
OK, well, I wonder if we can join our next guest now and bring in the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, Sir John Redwood. Sir John, a pleasure to have your esteemed company, as always, but especially today. Where do you stand, Sir John, on the spectrum of we need key strategic sovereign industries and the fact the taxpayer is now footing a bill of some 700 grand a day?
Yes, we need strategic industries. No, it was wrong to have plans to kill off all our virgin steel making and replace it with electric arcs. My worry is that this is a convenience to get Labour through May the 1st and some difficult elections in the area. And I'd like to know how long the promise is to these workers that these jobs are going to be supported by large amounts of taxpayer money, because I think their plan is still to close these blast furnaces and replace it with an electric arc furnace, which will be much less job intensive and will mean we don't have the full spectrum of things we can do with the qualities of steel we can make without imports. So there's no substitute, I think, for a proper agreement with the existing owners, the Chinese, to get us out of that, because I think there's a lot of muddle over who pays the bills and who cashes up the money at the end when the Chinese finally waved out and we have a proper nationalisation. And I think there's a lack of clarity over where they're going to find the private capital from, because as Chris has rightly said, these are very old blast furnaces and they haven't been relined anytime soon either. And when you reline, that's a big job. You've got to close the furnace down, start again on the inside of it. That's a big, expensive job and an interruption to your production. Where are the plans for all of that? Because if they don't have plans for that, they're not actually serious about keeping these blast furnaces other than in the short term. And why are we still not getting an accurate estimate from the Treasury, or best estimate from the Treasury, of what this is going to cost? They should know, because they've been poring over the books of this company ever since they got into power.
And I wonder, Sir John, do you find it ironic that there is this competitive nature to be the most socialist, in as far as we've got the likes of Nigel Farage and Richard Tice adopting the position of Jeremy Corbyn, and now Sir Keir Starmer has weighed that in. They want to nationalise things. Who'd have thought that the political extremes, opposites if you like, would suddenly meet in the middle?
Well, this is raw politics ahead of some difficult mayoral elections in the area of Scunthorpe and local elections, and I quite understand why the two parties are fighting over this. The irony is that I think practically everyone in politics or near British government wants to save these jobs, and now a lot more want to save the blast furnaces. But I'm still not persuaded that the government wants to save the blast furnaces in the longer term. And I'm quite sure they haven't done the sums properly and come up with proper budgets so that the taxpayer knows what we're in for. And I think both parties will come to regret it if there's a very big bill in a few months' time, and then we learn that actually these blast furnaces have to close anyway.
Yeah. So John, is Chris Hope here, just with Martin? Was it right or wrong for your government to sell this plant to the Chinese in the first place?
Well, I think they tried their best by selling it. If you have an open competition and the Chinese win, and in those days China was thought to be a reasonable business partner, you go ahead. If then they let you down, you've got to take tough action to get yourself out of what turned out to be a mistake. But I think the world has changed so much since that deal was done a few years ago. The cost of energy has gone through the roof. The extra costs of our net zero policies have become ever more obvious. And so the plant we sold them became less and less productive and way out of order on world markets. And so naturally, the owner had a major problem. It is a problem which the British government has to help solve, because for the best of intentions, the British government helped create it.
OK, thank you very much for joining us. Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. Always a delight to have your company. Thank you very much for joining us on this day where it appears 2,700 jobs could be saved from going into the furnace in Southport. Now,